welcome to another episode of EVE Business Insider. Today we're talking about investments and how exactly you're going to use all that ISK you've been earning from the channel, from all the active income streams that you are running. So today we're going to look at blueprints, and what we're going to do is get some blueprints from NPC cell loaders, which will start as 00, and we're going to turn those into high-level research blueprints, which is going to translate into profit for us at the marketplace. Now there are some skills that you're going to need for today, including science, research, metallurgy, lab operation, advanced lab operation, and scientific networking. This category tops out at about 1.9 million SP. You can finish off with about 4 injectors if you want to get right to the top. Now, some of these are more important than others. In specific, advanced lab operation and scientific networking are more about quality of life than our metallurgy and lab operation, which are going to be required for you to jump straight in. Now you can, if you would like to, skip research initially for the first part of this lesson, as that deals with time efficiency research, where metallurgy is material efficiency research. But what we're going to be looking at today is some ship hulls. What I'm going to focus on actually in this lesson is the cruiser BPO, but I think that some of these represent a real opportunity for you to kind of branch out and investigate some of these on your own. Now what I've done is prepared a bit of a lesson plan that works around the prices that I have at current on Tranquility. But those may not be the same prices for you when you go to run these blueprints. And so as you'll see, some of these categories have a huge disparity in the return on investment for these blueprints through research. Now copying may be different, and that might be a different lesson, but what we're doing today is just strictly material efficiency research and time efficiency research. Now, as mentioned, we will be starting with a 00, or what's known as the NPC blueprint. These come directly from NPC cell loaders on the market, which are generated by CCP, and we quite simply are free to buy as many of these as we would like to. So what we need to do is identify first which of these are the most profitable to run, which are going to be the correct selection for us, and in fact, the real beauty in this type of investment does lie in how much market research you're willing to do, how much R&D you're willing to do into this topic prior to getting into it. Now the length of these queues that we'll be setting are pretty significant, so you will be locked in. That's why we want to choose very carefully early on. Now the variables that we'll be dealing with that represent uncertainty to this investment are things like market fluctuations, changes to the game, or changes to the meta of PvP. We'll get into that in a moment. Synergies include manufacturing, because of course you will have blueprints around. You can use those for manufacturing if you'd like to. Invention as well, which through the process of copying is going to allow you to create Tech 2 blueprints from your Tech 1 originals. And player corporations, and this is for citadels and engineering complexes that we'll talk about a little bit later on in the video. Now what we're trying to do with this particular investment profile is set up something that's very stable for players. What we want is to create a financial profile for you that allows you to actively farm ISK and then invest that ISK into a solution which is absolutely stable and allows you to get a return on investment month after month without having to do any additional farming. This is the process called passive ISK, and indeed is the reason for the channel. So off we go to do some market research, and I'm looking at contracts specifically on the public scope on this one. And first off, we need to find out what exactly we want to search for. So what I'm doing is I'm headed to ZKillboard, which is a popular kill board for EVE Online, and I'm going to check out, a lot of people aren't aware that you're able to do this, but I'm going to look at the category for cruisers on Zkill. And what this is going to allow me to do is parse data and take a look at what are the most popular cruiser hulls that are used by players for PvP. Now, as it turns out, most of them are pirate ships and faction ships, which is fine, but there are a couple that stand out among these as being incredibly popular for capsuleers to use in PvP. And these are what we should focus on for today, and I would absolutely encourage you to use the same method in the future when you watch this video and you want to set this up for yourself. These may not be the same for you. But what I'm going to do is go through item by item. I'm going to look first at Caracal, and I'm going to have a look at some of these contracts and see if there is any gaps in the market or where I might be able to enter. And in fact, in the case of Caracal, I find that while there are quite a few contracts available, there is a gap in the contracts that are reasonably priced between 150 and 160 million. Specifically, 816 and 918 blueprints are in short supply for this particular ship. Now I'm going to check out a couple more, some that I know off by heart as being, potentially good ships that are well used, and in the case of the Rupture, there's very little volume on this one. And then finally with the Vexor. And now there's a huge disparity in what's available for some of these ships, and in fact there's also quite a significant lag in our ability to enter the marketplace once we decide a point of entry. So once we start to research, we're in fact going to be delayed until we're able to put those research blueprints on market, and that market lag could very likely result in a changing of price points for many of these blueprints. Now, regardless of this, we're going to go ahead and enter the market, but what I'm going to do is formulate a plan for how I'm going to do it. Now, I know that prices could change between when I set these jobs and when they come out, but I'm still going to make educated guesses based on the ones that are most valuable now. If they're popular now, it's very likely that they'll still be popular after a month or however long it takes me to complete my cycles, which we'll get into in a moment. Basically, what we want to do is identify 1 to 3 cruiser hulls, and I've pretty much done that for this lesson. I'm going to use the Vexor, the Caracal, and the Rupture, the first 3 that I looked at, because those represent the greatest spectrum, I feel, that both encompasses the blueprint availability and the potential uses of the ship and the likelihood of its demand at the marketplace. So what I'm going to have to do next is plan a good vessel, because I'm going to have to go on a trip across a few regions. Now, these blueprints spawn only in their native region. So for Mimitar blueprints, they'll spawn in Mimitar region, for Galanti, and so on. What I would recommend is not a frigate, and not a shuttle, and not something that could be smart bombed or popped by a single tornado volley. I'm going to recommend a good sturdy ship. A Stratios would be perfect, because I'm going to have to go on a bit of a tour. Now, as you see here, I'm going around to each of the main regions, and I'm picking up my blueprints, making sure that I'm not spending anywhere in excess of about 80 to 90 million, and of course not falling for any of those hilarious scams. Believe me, they are out there. Now, what I'm going to do next is have to decide where exactly I'm going to set these blueprints into production. And this is also an item of controversy, but I don't want you to get too caught up in this. I mean, this is definitely something that's going to impact your ability to make profit in the long term. But in the very beginning, I just want to point a few basic facts out, and we're going to go from there. Number 1, the cost and the cost index for these type of jobs is not going to significantly impact the outcome of the jobs. It's just not gonna. We're going to probably double our money on a lot of these blueprints, and honestly, paying a couple million is really not going to change that. Now, what I'm going to look at are stations here, and we're going to get into why in a minute, but what I want is a station with a moderately low cost index that's somewhere close to my point of market. That's all I'm really concerned about at this time. Well, the second most important reason that I'm choosing a station here is because I haven't really shown you any other investments on this channel yet, and for your first investments, I really want you to get something stable. I want you to get something rock solid, and a station totally provides that. So we're going to talk more about Citadels in a minute because they do provide a benefit, but for your first jobs, let's just go ahead and set those in the station. So we're going to click right here into Industry. Your hotkey for this is Alt-S, and then we're going to change to Material Efficiency Research, okay? And we're going to take a look at the number of runs for the job, and for material efficiency research, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. Each level of the job is going to increase the material efficiency of the blueprint by 1. And so what we're going to do is go ahead and set 8 for that. If we're going to do time efficiency research, which we will do when these complete, the ratio is 1-to-2. So for every level of the job, you're going to outcome 2% of time efficiency research. But again, all we're going to do is basically go through one by one. Now, you're saving settings on the same types of blueprints here, but as you switch, you're going to have to make sure that your settings are correct again. But you're just going through and setting each of these blueprints one by one. Now, I've gone ahead and picked 8 for 2 reasons. Number 1, because in my market research, I found that there was a gap in this particular aspect of blueprints. And number 2, because I think it really offers the best mix of efficiency on your research and efficiency of the blueprint. So we're going to get as much done on the blueprint research as possible in the shortest time possible. That's going to result in as much profit back for the producer as possible, and hopefully a blueprint sale for us. Now, as you can see here, I'm looking down the list, and there's really nothing more to do for these blueprints but wait for them to come out and then switch them again back into time efficiency research. Now, what you're looking at here is a Raitaru. This is an engineering complex. It's a type of citadel that has massive bonuses to exactly what we're trying to do today. And the only downside to using one of these in high sec is that there's a high likelihood that it will become under siege during the time that your blueprint's in research, or at least that there's a gamble that that will happen. If that were the case, your blueprints would fall into asset recovery, and you'd be able to get them back after some duration. But the important thing is that we would lose the time that we've invested into the jobs themselves. This is why I've picked a station. However, if you were to find access to one of these in some method that was considered safe, such as joining a player corp, I would absolutely suggest that, because it's a great way to really cut down on the duration of these jobs overall. Alright, that's going to be it, my dudes, for this lesson. I strongly encourage you to go out and check out Blueprint Research for yourself. I think it's a great way for new players to make passive income. And of course, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We have more content coming soon for Eve Business Insider.